Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Married at First Sight. Let's get to the show.
So I decided to actually not go with the principal job at the Catholic school. But I did take another position at another school, a director position.
This story honestly does not sound believable. If you had an offer, you signed an offer letter, and you agreed to it, how is it that you're saying that they changed all of the terms of the contract? Like, did you not have your offer letter? How does that change, like, your financial position?
Not significantly at all, actually.
How can I build a life with somebody if I don't even know what they're being truthful about and what they're lying about? Like, Michael has lied so much about so many different things.
So it's really hard to figure out what's going on in this clip. We have Michael who is saying to his wife, I turned down this one offer because I didn't really like it, but I took this other offer and the financial situation is the same. But the way that he comes across, it has a potential shadiness. It's hard to tell if it's shady or he's nervous or what's going on. But it's from the clip that we're being seen, it looks like zero eye contact from him. He is informing her about something rather than telling her the lead up to it. You know, if he had said, so I've been thinking about this thing and there's this thing and I don't know, what do you think about that? You know, usually couples will just at least involve the other person in the details as you ramp up to an important decision like what job to take. But I'm not going to fault Michael for having a career choice. He's free to have his own choices with his career. For Mika, she's coming out of the gates pretty judgmental. And what I'm guessing is that she's picking up on his shadiness or his defensiveness. If I was to take a guess, I would say that Michael is making a choice that would make sense to us if he just laid it all out on the table. But because he has issues with disapproval in his past or something that's going on, he feels like he has to evade people or let people know at the end, you know, because total speculation. I wonder if Michael thought, if I tell Mika about this prior to me making the choice, maybe she's going to yell at me and be upset at me. So maybe I should just do it. You know, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. And so maybe he's in that mode. So it's really hard to figure out what's going on here. Maybe we'll find out more information. For Mika, she believes that he's just lying, which I have to say, given the way that they're showing this, it does seem like he's deceptive about something, or he's not being fully disclosing about something.
The extent of our finance conversation was exchanging salaries.
How do you feel about that?
It's fine. I make a lot more than when I started the process. Almost double.
But how'd that happen?
I got a new position, so I started as a principal in a couple of weeks.
You said if I don't have sex with you by the honeymoon, you don't know if you want to be in this marriage. Can you admit that on camera, that you said that?
No.
You never said that. Even on the plane when we talked about it and I called you out.
What I said is this.
Yes or no? Did you say that on the plane?
It's a no.
It's like, how can I trust somebody like that? If you really cared about me and if you really want this marriage to work, then you wouldn't keep lying.
So there's a lot of theories on the internet as to why people lie, gaslighting, these kinds of things. In my experience clinically, usually there are logical reasons as to why people lie. They're not good reasons usually. Lying is 99% of the time an immoral, wrong thing to do. But when we get to the core reason as to why someone would do that, we usually have some understanding. It usually makes sense. So I don't know, but if Michael is exhibiting a pattern of lying, he might, and he seems to give off this vibe where he might worry about getting in trouble, he might worry about rejection, and he feels like he has to lie to manage other people's feelings so that they will accept him and love him. Of course, when you give off shady vibes, people are going to reject you and leave you and get angry at you, which causes him potentially to feel more afraid of disapproval and rejection, which causes him to engage in the act of lying even more. It could be a passive aggression. There's so many possibilities, and I've treated so many people along these lines. I don't even know if he's lying in this instance, though. So there's just a lot here. If I were in this room, which I'm always wondering why the marriage and family therapist isn't involved, we're on episode 9 or something, and the marriage and family therapist has yet to even show up, except for in the pseudo matchmaking process, pseudo scientific matchmaking process. What I would say is, okay, let's slow down. Mika, it sounds like you believe that he's lying right now. And my experience is you don't just say to the Michaels of the world, why are you lying? I might say something like, so, Michael, it sounds like you're a little hesitant about telling Mika about this stuff right now. I'm guessing there's a good reason for that. Can you tell me why you would be a little hesitant about that? And then get Michael to say, maybe it's, well, I'm afraid she's going to reject me. I'm afraid she's going to yell at me. Or I don't like to involve people in my career decision-making process. Or I feel ashamed because the contract that I thought I was going to sign was in fact not the contract that I wanted to sign, and I feel really bad. Or maybe what he's saying is he doesn't like religious people to be involved, and maybe Mika's more religious than him. I don't know. I'm just there's so many different reasons. And then when we get at why he would spin the truth or be a little evasive, then we can go, okay, well, let's work on that. Let's not have you be evasive and then trigger Mika's distrust in you. Let's work on what's really happening here. Mika, can you reassure him that you're not going to pounce on him if he involves you in his decision-making process, that kind of thing?
I don't understand what's so hard about telling the truth.
I feel like I made the right choice. Be fine. Yeah. Whew, Lord.
I will say there is something odd about the way he's presenting this. If I was to take a guess, I would say that he's terrified of disapproval and that he was worried about telling her for a long time, and he feels justified in not telling her about this up until this point. And then he's like, okay, well, oh crap, I've got to tell her at some point. And then he just lays it all out, and he has no eye contact. And he's like, and by the way, I changed jobs, and everything's fine. Everything's going to be okay. That it definitely has that vibe. And for Mika, she's just like, what is happening right there? There's something really odd happening right now.
Talk about your history with love and what it took or takes to get there.
I guess we can start with the basics. I've been in love a few times. And I think the big thing with me, with any relationship, we're able to express ourselves openly and directly and feel like we feel safe and we feel reassured with the person that we're with.
We talked about it before. Biggest thing is honesty. That's literally all I need from you right now, is just to be honest.
So I can't tell because they're not giving us a two-shot, but it looks like he has very little eye contact with her, which is, I think, consistent with his behavior, particularly when things are a little tense. Also, that previous episode I was talking about how he does a lot of caressing of himself. There's no way for me to know without talking with him, but a lot of people will report when they do that, it's because as a young person they were physically neglected, and so they frequently are having elevated distress, and so they're trying to soothe themselves through various different caressing of their own body. Having facial hair for men often gives us an excuse to kind of do that. So I don't know if that's what's happening for him. If I was to take a guess, I would say his distress level is very high in this moment. He probably feels like he's being attacked, or even though he isn't really being attacked, but he feels like she's going to attack him or something. And he's, trying to soothe himself, trying to calm himself down. And he's also not looking at her because to look at her would be too vulnerable and would be too scary. And so he's just trying to make himself small so that he will not get in trouble. But of course, for Mika, her big thing is she wants honesty. She wants someone to stand up and tell her what's going on. And when you're small and you're just giving little answers, it comes across like you're being deceptive and lying in the way she frames it. So I'm guessing this is going to spin out of control.
A lot of the issues that I have, a lot of my standoffishness is because I don't trust my husband. And I think that if we had talked about his job beforehand, then maybe I wouldn't feel like maybe this isn't truthful. If he could truly be honest and 100%, I feel like I could give him the benefit of doubt. I guess the biggest thing right now that I would need clarity on is like your job situation. Like you had a job as a principal and you were excited to start that. You had accepted the offer. You're supposed to start on Monday. And then yesterday it was like curveball.
So advice to people out there. Let me give you some advice. So right now, Mika is doing a pretty good job of cutting to the core of it. But there's a deeper core that you want to try to find. For her, she wants clarity about how he made the choice about his job. But at a deeper core to that is, when you made all those decisions without even informing me about what was happening leading up to that decision, and then the way you told me the way you made that choice seems so evasive. You just were dumping all this information and then kind of running away. It really hurt my feelings, and it scares me because I wonder what else is going on in your mind that you're not informing me about at this very moment or in the future. Is there going to be other things that I'm going to find out about later? I want to be clear to you, husband Michael. It's totally fine for you to make your own choices about your career. It's your career. You're free to make that choice. I'm free to make my choice about my career. I just want to be involved. And the way you did this, it felt like you were trying to trick me, or you're trying to deceive me, or trying to hold things from me, and that hurts my feelings. That's the deeper core. So people out there, when you are entering into a conflict and you're starting a conflict with your spouse or anyone really, think about that deeper core, because the surface issue is probably not the real issue. Now, right now, Mika is, doing a pretty good job. She's not upset. She's saying, I just want clarity around this. And that, and she's saying it in a nice voice, and she deserves clarity around that. But I worry that Michael, in his mind, will be like, well, it's my career, and I don't need to get your approval about my career, which is kind of true. So, and then he'll get upset, and then, and he'll look away, and he'll be more deceptive, or who knows what's going to happen. Whereas if Mika were to say, the reason why I'm hurt is because you didn't involve me, you can make your own choices. So, Michael, but the reason why I'm upset and the reason why I want clarity is because it just hurts my feelings. You didn't involve me. And then he could say, oh, really? Huh. Well, I'm sorry about that. The reason why I didn't involve you, I guess, was because I was worried you're going to disapprove. But I guess that doesn't give you a chance to approve. And that's unfair for me. There's a better chance of getting the other person to empathize and really change their behavior when you get to the core of why you're upset.
I denied that offer. I have a new job, and I'm starting on one thing. But I guess I'm still a little bit unclear on exactly what you're going to be doing, and what went wrong with the first one, and when you had time to apply for the second one, and a lot of questions.
I can never tell if they're editing this, but I think this is actually happening, where she just put something out there and he is just not responding. I've had many clients like this before. There's a lot of reasons for why someone would do this. Passive aggression, because they're hurt and then they're angry, and sometimes people will be silent as a passive aggression, as a way, they want to get angry and be like, how dare you, but instead they're just really quiet, a silent treatment kind of thing. It's possible. Another possibility is that he's terrified. He doesn't know what to say because the things he wants to say right now, he predicts are going to be bad. Things like, it's my career. I don't understand why you're getting on my back about that. There's other reasons too, just sort of a general terror of expressing yourself. There's a lot of reasons why people are very quiet. And I'm on the edge of my seat, but I believe in Michael, so maybe he'll come through and actually say something that will be functional in this moment. I'm trying to imagine what I would be looking for. I guess what I would imagine would be the case for Michael, I don't know, it's speculation. He could say something like, well, yeah, I thought about it. I was basically secretive about my career choice for a number of reasons. One, I'm kind of ashamed of the fact that I got kind of a bad offer, and I was really excited about it. And I told everyone that I was excited about it because it was a big deal. I mean, a principal of a school, that's a big deal. And then later I found out it was kind of a crap job. And so I didn't want to be ridiculed, I guess. That's why I just wanted to fix it before I brought everything to you. Or maybe Michael could say something like, yeah, the reason why I didn't tell you is because I was worried you're going to disapprove. I don't know. Let's see what he says.
I don't feel 100% comfortable with you yet. And I don't know all there is to know about you. There's just certain things that I'd rather keep to myself. And when pushed on it,
I feel like you give yourself an excuse, but if we get to the basis of it, you just take the easy way out.
I just told you I'm not 100% comfortable with certain things with you yet.
Okay, so this is data for what I thought to be true, which was that he was worried. This is just data, it's not a slam dunk on the hypothesis, but that for him, he was going through a bit of a conundrum about his career. And he was like, should I take the job? Should I not? Should I do this? Should I? And, you know, he was thinking about it. And he was worried that if he revealed that debate to Mika, that she was going to jump on him or criticize him, that things weren't going well, or decide, you know, this is what I think you should do. I don't think there's evidence that she would have done that, but maybe he was worried about that. And so he didn't tell her until he had made a choice. And so he says here, I'm not 100% comfortable with you yet. And that's all he says. Again, it's not the core of the issue. The core of the issue is, would be for Michael to say something like, Mika, I don't know if this is you or me. It's probably me because of my issues. It's always good to blame yourself. In this instance, take responsibility, because it comes across as non-accusatory. Say it's probably me, but I'm really nervous about revealing things to you because I'm worried that you're going to disapprove of me, and then my feelings are going to be hurt. It's probably has nothing to do with you. It has something to do with our past fighting, but I think our past fighting, I think you have some good points. You have some good reasons why you're upset in the past. And I guess I'm just really worried that you're going to disapprove. And that's not fair to you, that I would condemn you of disapproving me before I even give you a chance. And so what I should have said was, I'm thinking about my career, but Mika, could you just listen to me and not criticize me because I'm worried you're going to criticize me? Could you just be a supportive person? Let me tell you all the details. Now, the problem, as I've been saying, is that when the Michaels of the world try to manage someone else's feelings, he's trying to not have Mika disapprove of him by not telling her about any of his process until it's over. He's like, everything's fine. I made a choice. You know, don't think about it. Don't disapprove. I don't even want you to think about it, Mika. Well, what you do is you create a lot of hurt and anger in the other person, and then they're going to disapprove of you. So where's the marriage therapist?
I feel like I'm not allowed to express how I feel about Michael without him coming back with how he feels about me. And it's like my issues are never really addressed. They're just bubbled over with his issues. Like at some point we have to address the issues that I have, and then we can address the issues that you have. But it never feels that way. Even when I try to explain it to him in different ways, I don't think he ever fully grasped how I feel. I honestly think that we could have a successful marriage if he starts telling the truth. But I cannot be with a liar.
Right. So that's one narrative, is that he is a liar. That's not going to go over well, right? You are a liar. It's not going to go over well. Believe me, I've had those narratives inside me as well. I've had clients like Michael before, where you want to just say, dude, why are you lying so much? You know, and you want to say that word, lie. Well, it usually doesn't feel like lying to the person. It usually feels justified. For example, Michael probably feels like, I wasn't lying. I was just doing my career. I was just making a choice about my career. I didn't tell you about it, but I don't have to tell you about every detail of my life, every detail of my career. That's not lying to you. So if he doesn't frame it as lying, then you probably shouldn't call it lying if you're in a marriage with him. You should probably call it like something like you withheld the details, you know, sort of downgrade it or something that you could both agree on. Then you might say, yeah, I guess I did withhold the details. Okay, then you can actually talk about, well, I don't like it when you withhold the details. Whereas if you just say you're a liar and he's like, I didn't lie to you, then where are you?
You're allowed to be uncomfortable. We married strangers. But I don't understand why come into a process like this if you knew that, like, when facing uncomfortable situations, your reaction is to lie. Like, I'm not really sure how in any marriage that would work, honestly. Not just ours.
This notion that I'm like out here just lying, it's ridiculous. I don't trust her, and I don't think she's being genuine with me.
Right. So there you go. He doesn't think he's lying. And it's pretty easy for someone in his position to be like, I'm not lying. I just didn't tell her the details as I was heading up to I told her what happened. I wasn't lying. So, yeah, this doesn't bode well. The other possibility, I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes with these two, is that when you come from a background where you weren't able to be angry with people, and he exhibits that kind of vibe where he has a lot of anger on the inside, but it's not coming out. For Mika, her anger comes out more readily in a more healthy way, more spontaneous way. For Michael, we haven't seen, I don't think, any real anger from him. And so when we have that and we suspect that there is anger there, usually people will say, well, Michael, he just doesn't have anger. That's just not possible. We all have anger. So when you see someone that seemingly has no anger in a variety of different contexts where they're highly distressed, that's a red flag for what we call passive-aggressive personality, where you have aggression, as everyone does. We all have aggression, anger. And if you can't express it, usually because you were abused growing up and you weren't allowed to be angry, your anger has to come out in a hidden way, in a passive way. And there are several different ways one can do this. One, you could not wear your wedding ring. Two, you could not tell someone about something. You could withhold information. You can give the silent treatment. There's a lot of passive ways to express anger. There's a lot of ways to express your displeasure in someone, the fact that you don't like what someone else is doing through these other behaviors. The problem is the person that you're trying to communicate that passive anger to doesn't usually receive it. They don't usually understand what you're saying. It's just aggravating to them.
I think everything is a setup for an I got you moment. So there's really no pleasing my partner at this point. And I think I've just kind of run out of emotional tapestry to keep giving out because it doesn't seem to be getting me anywhere.
Yikes. So he has what we call in the Gottman language, a narrative of contempt that it doesn't bode well for their relationship. So imagine if you had that kind of narrative where you think everything's just about a got you moment, meaning that she's out to get me. She's out to catch me. She's out to humiliate me. She's out to find out every wrong thing that all she wants to do is get me, catch me in doing bad things. And she's just trumping up all these false charges. If you have that kind of narrative about your spouse, that's a pretty severe thing. That's what we call contempt. And that usually means divorce. Once that contempt, so there's a difference between, from Michael's position of, my wife, sometimes she really gets on me about things, or sometimes she seems to try to catch me in things, or sometimes I don't like it when she calls me a liar. Sometimes she does that. There's a difference between that and she's out to get me, which is, there's a big leap between she does some things that bother me to she is out to get me. And those kinds of, those global narratives of she is out to get me. And that doesn't bode well for, one, love being built between two people, goodwill, let alone wanting to spend any time with someone. So what would you do? And he hasn't communicated any of that. He hasn't said, hey, directly to Mika, hey, Mika, I get the feeling like you're trying to catch me. He hasn't said anything along those lines. He's seemingly suppressed all that anger, and it's coming out in these other ways, like not telling her about the career. Because he probably knew, this is a lot of speculation, by the way, if he's angry about she's out to get me, and he's suppressing that, and then he's like, well, how do I express my anger? How do I let it out? Well, I am working on this career thing. I bet you anything, if I don't tell her anything about it, it's going to hurt her feelings, and that will be a way for me to express my aggression towards her, my anger towards her. It's all subconscious. It's not a conscious thing. These things are usually developed early in life where we're not conscious of the decisions we make. Total speculation, but that would be one avenue of exploration with this couple.
That's what we're here to figure out.
I don't think that's something you just like figure out. I think my biggest fear about falling in love with you is that this whole thing was a lie. How you felt about me, the things you said, like, it was a lie. And the whole time I, like, gave my heart to you. And it, like, all was based on a lie.
So a lot of the couples and individuals that I work with are exploring their relationships. It's part of being a marriage and family therapist. I get a lot of clients like that in private practice. A lot of couples who are exploring their feelings for each other. A lot of individuals come to me to explore their feelings about their spouse. A lot of people recovering from infidelity. A lot of people thinking about divorce. A lot of people trying to build a new relationship. So I talk with a lot of people about this. And there are certain markers that I have learned over time that are very toxic to a relationship. They both are exhibiting these things. And Gottman talks about these things, but you also kind of get a sense for them talking to a lot of people. As I was saying, Michael has this narrative that she's out to get him. That's a global attack on her character, that she is the sort of person who all she's interested in is attacking me. And that's a terrible quality in a human being. She's not a good person who does occasional bad things. She's a bad person. Well, she's exhibiting the same kind of narrative of, you are a liar. And he's like, well, I guess we're here to discuss that. And she's like, I don't think this is the sort of thing you can discuss, because you're a liar and there's something deeply wrong with you. These two contemptuous narratives, the way they're talking, doesn't bode well. However, if a marital therapist were to get involved, they can turn that around. I've turned around worse narratives than that. And whenever I say that, I worry I'm coming across like I'm bragging. Trained, experienced marital therapists are very good at being able to turn those things around. There's nothing special about me. It's just about, if you're trained in marriage and family therapy, if you have a lot of experience, if you had good supervision, if you've been in the field for a long time, you just get good at being able to turn that around. When you have those contemptuous narratives, it's because you're hurt or you're afraid, and you develop that to protect yourself. It's an explanation as to why I feel so bad. I have a feeling that Mika seems to be at probably like a 6 distress. He's probably like a 9 right now. I've treated a lot of people like him where he looks like he's calm and cool, but I would suspect he is highly distressed right now. And when you have that amount of distress, you want to have some kind of story. Like, I feel a 9 out of 10 right now. Why is that? Well, because she's so evil. That must be why. It's a very simple explanation to a very complex problem.
Last night, I thought the conversation would be more productive. I think I was just really, really angry. I was really, really upset about how that thing went out. So I had an idea to take Mika on a date.
Awesome, Michael. This is starting out good. He just said, I think I was very, very angry. From the way he was coming across, it didn't seem like he was angry at all. It seems like he didn't have any emotion at all. So this is good that he's aware of that. That's a huge step, is that he's aware of his anger. That's fantastic. We'd be a lot further back if he couldn't recognize that. And it lends itself to that hypothesis that I was talking about. So maybe he can say, I was angry, and I was angry because of this, and I did this, but that's not fair to you. Let's see what he can do here.
I generally don't mind having difficult conversations. I think it's important. I think it's definitely important when you're talking about being in a marriage. So I'd like to at least have a conversation and find common ground at the very least.
For me, when you don't say anything, you don't communicate, it does make me feel abandoned. It makes me feel like you don't want to be in this marriage. And in turn, it makes me not want to be in this marriage.
2 thumbs up, Mika. This is starting out so great. So Mika is, again, that core issue of, I feel abandoned by you. When you didn't tell me about what happened about your career, I felt abandoned. And when I feel abandoned, it makes me think you don't want to be in this relationship, which makes me not want to be in this relationship. Perfect. That's that core. Without even a therapist, they're hitting it out of the park. This is great. Let's see if they can continue this trend. Very encouraged.
If that's how you're going to respond to issues, we're going to have way bigger issues in our marriage than this. And why would I try with somebody who's always going to shut down or walk away. It's not fair for me to always be ready for you to come back whenever you decide you are done shutting down or you want to talk or now you're ready to have a conversation. That's not fair to me. I'm not going to keep feeling abandoned by any person, and definitely not my husband. Like, it just does not make sense to me to feel that way.
So I'm a little worried that Michael isn't interpreting this positively. So hopefully he understands what she's saying, that he isn't actually abandoning her, but he's making her feel abandoned by his emotional withdrawal. Hopefully he can hear that.
To be completely honest with you, like, you're very strong-willed and you have a strong personality. You're very determined. You can be stubborn at times. I'm the exact same way. It makes things difficult when you meet somebody who's just as strong and passionate about those same things, and then it makes it, you know, when you're trying to like meet in the middle, it makes it hard.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Throughout all of this, and everything that we've done and everything that we've been through, like, I've always felt like you have tried to work with me through my challenges and some of my early setbacks.
So you heard a different narrative, what he was saying the night before. The night before, she was out to get him. That was his narrative. Now, it's two strong-willed, stubborn people. Different narrative, different reframe, more acceptable to her, and more easily swallowable, if you will, if you're Michael, to say that to yourself. Well, okay, maybe she's not out to get me. Maybe we're just two strong-willed people. If you it's just a different narrative. It's just a different way of looking at the exact same data. One will result in the end of the marriage, and one will give you a chance of succeeding in a marriage.
And so at the very least, you know, I appreciate you willing, despite a lot of trying moments, being able to find something about us that's willing to come back for. The only thing I can do at this moment is sincerely apologize. And as we move forward in our marriage and move forward in this relationship, I do a much better job of addressing issues before they're becoming issues and stopping issues before they become issues.
So this is great that he's apologizing, but we've been here before where he apologized. And I think I would be more encouraged if he said something like, so I just want to apologize for what happened, but let me tell you why I did it. It was because I was worried about you yelling at me, and I did something stupid, and I was like pre-angry at you, and so I withheld information from you because I was angry at you of you being accusatory or demanding of me. And that's why I withheld from you. That I should apologize for that. Instead, what he's doing right here is something he did previously where he's just like, I'm really sorry. I'm just going to dedicate myself to not do this in the future. Brandon actually does this too. I apologize. I'm not going to do this in the future. Instead of, let me tell you let me give you some self-reflection. And I think I've learned something about myself as to why I did that. It's not an excuse, but I think it's a reason why. And if I have a reason why, then I can work on it. Just apologizing for something, after a while, it doesn't mean much. And I'm guessing Mika is going to, now, I'm guessing Michael is sincere when he's apologizing. But if you're Mika, you're like, well, you've apologized before, and it just keeps happening. So there has to be something more there. And for people out there, if you find yourself doing this a lot, try to figure out why you're doing it. And if you can't figure it out, get a therapist to help you. It's worth the time and the money in most cases.
Like, this could have been avoided had I done one or two things differently. That's my mistake and my burden to bear, and I accept that. I'm willing to commit to that as we move forward to make sure that we don't find ourselves in this situation again.
Okay.
So.
Right. I think we're seeing on Mika's face, she's like, okay, I guess I have to say okay to that because he's apologizing and he's saying he's dedicating himself. But we've been here before. This is like the third time this has happened. So I don't know if this is really going to happen.
With that being said, I got you a little something. I wanted to do something nice for you, something that shows you do matter to me, even if it's something as small as this. There you go.
This is cute.
I saw that you bought in the house a bunch of snacks one time, and I was like, well, I don't want to get the same stuff you got from there, but that's a good basis of like how to build this box out. But yeah.
I like all of these, but I like all candy.
So that's great. It's a good gesture. If he would have spent actually some time figuring out where his behavior comes from, where his traumas come from, which is not easy to do. That would, I'm guessing, be a better gift for her and a more encouraging gift for her. This is something that a lot of people will do when they don't know what else to do. It's just like, well, I really want to win her heart back. I'll get her a gift. It's, that's good. It's for sure. But I would be, if I was Mika, I'd be more encouraged if he actually had some more self-awareness.
At the end of the day, it's about us just trying to really figure out, do we have enough of everything, from the experts, from ourselves, from, everything that we've been through. We have enough at the end of the day to stay married and be married. I feel like we do.
I agree with that.
So I don't know if I'm just reading into this, but I feel like for Michael, he's like, okay, job well done. And I think for Mika, she's like, we've been here before, so okay. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle, in which we watched Married at First Sight. Tune in next time when we continue with their journey.